I have a coworker who is very rude and unreasonable to everyone. No one likes him, but unfortunately human resources won't fire him because he has worked too long in my office. The things he has said to me and others is unimaginable. How do I make him stop? He has no remorse about anything he says. What would you do?
I've always wanted to go to Tahiti. When I read that question, a story came into my mind. So I'm going to tell you a little story.
About Tahiti?
No.
Oh.
I know that whoever wrote that question literally loses sleep over what they believe is a person producing this pain in them. But before I tell you the story, I'll just add that the more you resist any condition, the more blinded you are to the fact that the condition you're resisting isn't the person's action, but your reaction to them, which is inseparable from that moment. But to make that simple, a little story. Once upon a time, there was a little lake. You would be the little lake in the story. You're all the little lake. And the little lake had a big ache. And the reason the little lake had a big ache was because something kept it awake night and day. And what kept the little lake awake and caused it to ache? This is not easy. You try it sometime. Was that there were nutty squirrels that lived in the trees above the little lake, upon whom it blamed its ache, because they would drop their nuts into the lake. Now this is pretty good, isn't it? Now, when the little lake was first a little lake, there were no trees that grew over the little lake to make it ache because of the squirrels that were there. But in time, these trees grew up, and so did the squirrels that came to collect the acorns in them. And the squirrels would get up in the tree, and every once in a while they'd get too excited, all those little nutty squirrels, and they would drop their acorn into the lake. And when the acorn dropped into the little lake, then the little lake got upset and disturbed because something was messing with its peace. Now, the more it got disturbed because something was messing, what are you smiling at?
I'm waiting for the next ache word to come into it.
So the more it was disturbed over the little nuts that were dropping into its water, the more agitated it became. And one day it reached a fever pitch, and the old owl that lived in the tree next on the other side of the lake, who could see that the lake was aching because the squirrels were dropping the nuts in it.
What am I supposed to do?
Said, "Knock it off, lake. It's not the nuts that are the problem." It's not the nuts that are the problem, but your own waters that are meant to receive and to reflect life and not to deflect and deject everything that happens to them. It's not the nuts in your office that are the problem. You're never going to find a world without nuts. What is the problem is that you've yet to understand how to use the nuts that drop into the lake that make it ache. Because until you can do that, every nutty squirrel with its acorn that drops itself into your life, completely mechanically, unconscious of itself, is going to produce in you an unconscious reaction, just like the lake that would get more and more stirred up, the more nuts that dropped into it. Let the nuts drop into your life. Learn how to use them, because inside of you is something that the moment it's disturbed can return to a natural, peaceful state, but not if you resist the nuts. That's my story.
It actually makes the nuts more active the more
you resist
engage.
the nut,
yeah.
the worse it gets. Let's go on. I have no more puns.
All right. Next question. From a spiritual perspective,
Except that when the nuts really bother you, it becomes a shell of a life.
I better move on so we
Okay.
can get past this. All right. From a spiritual perspective, how do we understand?
But some of these cases are a lot harder to crack than others. That's what I found
Where's
over
Ellie?
time.
Ellie, help me here. I'm not good with puns. I need Ellen. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. From a spirit.
Look, there's a lesson in all of this. I don't know what it is, but don't take yourself so seriously. Negative states, I don't care what their cause is, have absolutely no authority over you. But when you ascribe a cause as being something that is making you crazy, you lose the possibility of awakening to this part of you that's intended to receive and reflect and let everything come in and through and let it go right where it's supposed to go instead of becoming someone all caught up in the things that you're painfully caught up in. Keep working.